Today, I am going to recap a progress session I had with a member within the last week. We had a great conversation about how to get better at CrossFit gymnastics, about CrossFit skills. And I wanted to bring that to you guys because I've actually had that exact conversation about 3 times since then. I'm super pumped up about it. I hope you guys are too. And I really think this is going to help a lot of people. So the specific question that I was asked was, hey, I want to work on skills. How can I do that? And this was definitely coming from the perspective of outside of class. Not that you have to work on it outside of class, but it was kind of like, hey, like, how do I get better at skills? Like, how do I get better at double unders or pull-ups or toes to bar, handstand holds, walks, push-ups? How do I get better at the gymnastics skills of CrossFit? Still within the context of coming here to the gym. And so prior to this, we had been talking a lot about nutrition. And so again, this is a specific scenario, but I think this actually can apply to a lot of people. So yeah, I'm sure there's a 10, 20% that are maybe outside of this conversation, but I mean, 80, 90% of us, I really think this is the bulk of it. So that was a question, like, how do I get better at skills? How do I get better at double unders? How can I work on that? Because I just can't seem to get it. And so I've got one of these today. I'm not doing fancy graphics. I don't have a team doing my YouTube live for me. But I'm gonna start with this one. So let me hold it up for a second. And what I want you guys to look at, so this is the theoretical hierarchy of development of a CrossFit athlete. Fancy way to say, this is how you build a CrossFit person, right? This is how we get better at CrossFit. It's a pyramid. So at the base layer, we have nutrition. Let me hold it up for you guys just to see. Pretty simple. Nutrition. All right. I really just want you guys looking at that one for right now. So nutrition. So that's the base of the pyramid. That's not going to be today's talk, but I do want to address it because it is literally the base, which is also kind of half of my point of this entire video. You guys heard me talk a lot about this one at the beginning of the year. That was actually the name of our nutrition challenge that we did for 6 weeks at the beginning of the year was return to the basics. That nutrition is the bottom of the pyramid. And the concept here is that, and really just, I mean, the punchline of the whole video today is the next section or the next level up on the pyramid can only be as big as the base layer underneath it, right? Which can then only be as big as the base layer underneath that. So at the bottom of the pyramid, nutrition has to be in check, right? If you're not eating, if you're not fueling, or if you're overeating and overfueling, if something's out of whack, there's only so far that you can build this pyramid of being a CrossFit athlete. So that's not today's conversation. I did want to put that out there. I've talked with that a lot more recently. So today is actually going to be leveling up to the next two. So the next two, we've got metabolic conditioning, gymnastics, and then to finish out the pyramid, throwing and weightlifting, and then sport at the top. So sport at the top, think like CrossFit Games, semifinals, regional, semifinals, quarterfinals, open, competing locally and stuff like that. And so if I want my sport, me being an athlete in CrossFit, to get bigger, I then need a bigger base all the way down through. So I've got to have all of these layers. And I'm specifically going to go through the order. So today's question is right along with the gymnastics. Like, how do I get better at gymnastics? Punchline, you got to get better at the stuff underneath. But I want to talk about like what that actually means, because you hear that, you see the pyramid, and you hear us say stuff like that all the time. But I want to put it and make it practical for you guys. So the specific conversation I had with this member was, they're like, hey man, I'm confident in my strength. I feel pretty good on strength numbers. That doesn't seem to get in my way in the workout. But I get really winded in workouts, and I need to get better at gymnastics because I can't do it. We had just talked about nutrition a bunch. So we got on the plan and figured out kind of numbers and protein numbers and water and some macros and different things there. So that's already in place. I drew the conversation all the way back to the next layer is metabolic conditioning, or short, what we call in CrossFit, Metcon, workout of the day. This is that timed piece that we do. So for example, yesterday we did bench press, 3 sets of 5 at some percentages. We've been building up on that over a couple of weeks. And then we did a short workout that was AMRAP 12. It was like handstand push-up or shoulder press. We did kettlebell swings and then jump rope. I actually think this is a great example for today's conversation. And so it's like, man, how do I get better at those double unders? How do I get better at the handstand push-up? Well, if you are so out of breath, you can't think about going upside down. So that's the first thing I want to bring up. So this metabolic conditioning layer. So that's this base layer of, let's just call it cardio, endurance, stamina. There's a bunch of terms for it. They're all slightly different. I'm not going to define them all now. But we need to increase our layer of metabolic conditioning. And so I made a video, and this kind of I don't know the word I'm thinking of, but kind of a response back to my video I made about a week or two ago. I had a lot of people would ask me about this, where I've made the comment that you would probably be better off, for the sake of doing well in the open and qualifying for quarterfinals, at least at that level, you'd probably be better off doing a little bit more intermediate workouts and then absolutely smashing them with a ton of volume and getting more rounds of the AMRAP at maybe more of the intermediate level of our workouts that we write here at the gym. And so that's actually what this pyramid is kind of saying is, yes, again, nutrition, we checked it off. I've been talking about that for a while, last couple of months. But metabolic conditioning, that is your ability to metabolize, right? Can I take the food that's coming in my body from the nutrition layer and can I metabolize it? Can I turn that into energy that I output? Okay. So once I have the right food coming in, I have the right energy coming in, can I metabolize that? Can I turn that into energy going out? That's CrossFit, right? That's the Metcon. And so whoever is most efficient at taking energy and turning it into, like, think about that. Like, that's crazy. Like, that's who's the best at the open, is who can take the energy and most efficiently turn their food into exercise, right? So kind of an interesting way to think about it. I love that concept, but I've got to get my conditioning better. So they're confident in their strength, but nutrition's not so great. Cardio is not so great as well. So we want to increase that. So again, my bold statement is I would rather see you guys be pushing the intermediate side of workouts, getting a lot of rounds, getting a lot of reps, because we have to build that base up. In class, yes, we are going to work on skills. You're going to see that. Obviously, we do that. That's part of CrossFit. But again, with this person, I was like, what is the goal? Like, if the goal is to be better at the open next year, like, yes, there's some skills mixed in. This person can do a couple of pull-ups. They can do a chest to bar one at a time. But what we were talking about is like, but if we're like, what's the reason that we're not jumping back up on the bar to do another pull-up? It's because our hands are on our knees and we're out of breath. So again, I know this is not everybody, but most people, your hands are on, once you can do kind of one or two of them, a lot of the issue is that your hands are on your knees and you're out of breath in between, or the run in between the pull-ups, the run in between the handstand push-ups, it smokes you, or you're so tired to do double unders, you can only do a couple at a time before being exhausted. Like, for you to be so out of breath and redlining that your like heart's beating through your eyeballs, and then to tell that person to then try to balance upside down, that's a very difficult task. And so my main argument today, and really the only thing that I want to say, I've just got different ways I'm going to say it later. The main thing I want to say today is I would way, way, way rather you build up your conditioning level and your confidence in your conditioning, so that the working out part, you're not scared while you're working out. You're not working out in a fight or flight mode, right? If you can get your body conditioned to the point where you can accumulate a couple of rounds on a workout, then we can talk about practicing some of the skills and gymnastics of it. And so it is, how do I want to say this? I mean, I guess I'll just say it again the exact same way. Like, if you are so out of breath from the run or the bike or the row or the burpees or even the weights or the thrusters or whatever it is, if you're just like so out of breath that your heart rate's just like beating, throbbing through your head and through your eyeballs, like, you're just not going to be confident to try to go upside down. And so you can't even give gymnastics the attention that it deserves to even build up and get better at, because your body is so fight or flight worried about the layer underneath it. Okay. Here's another one. So let's talk about the open again. I'm going to reopen the conversation I had last time on here. If we look at the open, it wasn't a very heavy open. Even so, the reason, let's say the first workout had a 20-pound medicine ball was the heaviest thing in the whole workout. Okay. Ladies, it was 14. Not that heavy. I know your legs got tired and mine were super tired and sore for a couple of days, but like at the end of the day, it was 20 pounds. Getting your back squat from, 300 pounds up to 400 pounds doesn't necessarily improve that wall ball stamina that much. Like, it's your ability to, again, metabolize and turn that into this conditioning energy where you're doing lots of reps. Like, I saw this post one time about High Rocks. So like one of the famed things in High Rocks, I still think it's lore. I haven't actually seen this officially happening, but the Red Bull patch. If you do all 100 wall balls at the end of your High Rocks unbroken, apparently Red Bull's hanging around giving out patches. People think of that and that's really cool, and they just try to do it and they can't figure it out. But like, let's be honest, can you do 100 air squats in a row without stopping or pausing? Just down, up, down, up, down, up at that speed, no less than that. Can you do 100 straight like there? Then the next step is, could you, use maybe, a 15 or 20 pound dumbbell and do 100 goblet squats in a row at that speed? The next one would be, can I do a thruster where there's a little bit of a power, press into it? And then the wall ball. And so a lot of times people think of like, how do I do 66 wall balls in the middle of the workout? It's like, well, 66 air squats would smoke you in the middle of the workout. Like, we have to build some more of this stamina and some of this endurance, both muscularly and cardiovascular endurance. And so as we think about this, like if we go to 26.3, when we had the barbell, that barbell felt very heavy for a lot of people, myself included. But the reason that it felt heavy was because we had just done 100 burpees or, at whatever point in the workout. Like, it wasn't the barbell itself that was super heavy. It's that we had done that many burpees. And I would say, and maybe y'all can point fingers at me or programming or the workouts we do, but like, it's not often that we do 100 burpees within a workout and then try to do some of those weights. All things considered, those were very light, maybe medium weights relative to things that we normally do. But we don't normally do 100 burpees throughout the process as we're trying to do a clean with 115 pounds, right? And so again, back to the last time's conversation of like, how do I make it to quarterfinals, or how do I just perform in the open? Like, my huge argument is we need to follow this pyramid. So nutrition dialed on point, not point of today, but today, the metabolic conditioning. And so let's kind of wrap up this kind of this main point I'm trying to make. If you want to get better at skills, but your conditioning is so far behind and so far lacking, you just don't even have the physical capacity to even practice the skills because you're so out of breath. Okay. And that's not this horrible thing. It just, for us to spend time after class working on some of the party tricks of CrossFit, it's fun. It probably feels good. It's really cool to get a PR or a first this. We still want that. We still coach that in class. I'm not saying don't do any, but if we have 30 extra minutes per day, or let's say we have 30 extra minutes in our day, 3 times a week, I would really argue, and here's my kind of, bold punchline statement for this video. I would argue that your 3 30-minute sessions or extra sessions that you have per week is either better spent meal prepping or meal planning, or B, the next step up would be going on a walk or a basic zone 2 run, bike row combo. It literally doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be running. That's just the most accessible to do at home. Bike row, run, ski, burpee, air squat, walking lunge, push up, just really, even push ups, like your kind of muscles can run out at that point, but just pick something with so little reps that you can move constantly without stopping for 30 minutes. Again, it does not have to be fast. It can just be at a walking speed, honestly, at a speed where you can talk to a neighbor in kind of short little sentences like this, maybe a couple words at a time. Like, that would be a pretty good speed for you to go. But do something like that, like 30-ish minutes. And so for those of you that get to class 15 minutes early and stay 15 minutes later, that 15 before and after to turn your whole day into an hour and a half long, walk/workout, like that's really beneficial. Or if you have extra time at home and you're like, what should I do? I think there's some argument for some stretching and mobility depending on the person. But you would be way better off doing some, just a light jog or doing like a 45-minute walk and really building this base as wide as you possibly can so that we can then grow up with gymnastics. Now, there's a day we're going to get there, but gymnastics is going to be way easier to learn if you're not out of breath and you're, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds lighter, right? If you're currently doing pull-ups and you have the ability, body fat percentage wise, and we can do the in body and we can figure these numbers out. But if you have the ability to lose 20 to 30 pounds and that's what you're trying to do is lose weight, specifically right now with CrossFit, lose body fat. If you can already do a couple of pull-ups, like you're just going to accidentally pull and hit your chest randomly if we lose 15, 20 or 30 pounds. Like, so that's why like nutrition at the base is so important, is it's going to just make all of that easier. And then the conditioning, obviously that's going to be way easier if we're 20 pounds lighter, take off a weight vest. Like that's so much easier to get better and then confident about our conditioning. And then again, if your heart rate's not just beating through your eyeballs, you're going to be way more confident to go upside down. I think double unders are a great example of this one because it's not this like ridiculous high skill. It's more of a coordination type of thing, but it's so hard to think of like jump 1, 2, jump 1, 2, jump 1, 2, like counting and doing it's not math, but like this musical rhythm almost, or counting double unders like to yourself while you're out of breath. Like if you're just so wiped, that's just so hard. So anyways, I'll wrap that one up. Really cool thing. I heard this on somebody else's live, I don't know, a week or two ago. It was actually a Bible study. I thought it was very interesting and I just had to sneak this one in here. They were talking about when, in Genesis 1, when God created heavens and the earth, they were talking about how he created things step by step, day by day. It wasn't that he was creating all these things and had his hand in different areas all at once. He created a specific thing on day 1. There was morning, or there's evening, and then there was morning. That was the first day, right? And then it was the next day, right? And so every single day he created something, and he specifically says, saw that it was good, and there was evening, and there was morning, the third day, et cetera, and working away. And the point that the guy was making in the video was that like God has this blueprint, and stick with me on this one, whether you believe it or not, that God has this blueprint of how we're to accomplish tasks. And so this guy was talking specifically about, or the example he provided was like, okay, let's say you're writing a book. Let's say it takes you a year to write the book and publish it and whatever, and you have 7 book ideas that you want to do. The best way to make money doing that would be to make 1 book in year 1, publish it, have that start making some money. Then in year 2, make book number 2, publish it. Now you're making double money. Year 3, publish, create, write, edit, etc. Book 3, publish it. So your income would slowly increase over time. And this was kind of the parallel the example he was doing. And I think it's the same thing here, as opposed to if you had 7 books and you wrote 1/7 of 7 books in the first year, and then you published all of them in year 7, like then you wouldn't make any money along the way to support yourself as you're writing the book and stuff like that. And he was talking about how, like, again, in Genesis 1, how God creates this example of finishing what you started and then moving on to the next section by section, as opposed to trying to multitask and do a million things at once. Let me draw, let's see, let me get a Sharpie. Let me draw one thing. Probably my favorite book besides that one. No, I just messed up. Let me get a piece of paper. Essentialism by Greg McKeown. This is one of my favorite books. It's actually what the gym is named after. Book is called Essentialism, and this was a terrible drawing, and I didn't intend to talk about this, but here we are. The book is called Essentialism, and this is like the main, like this on the cover of the book. I've got it right there. This is the cover on the book, or this is in early on. And so a lot of us are stuck here where we have this is a 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 arrows going in 7 different directions, right? That's a little bit of energy, a little bit of output, and not a lot, as opposed to being focused on one thing at a time, going in a singular direction. And so that's how I want to end today, is when we go all the way back to this one here. If I put a brick on the bottom layer of nutrition, and then a small brick here, and then a small brick, and then a small brick, and a small brick, and I just slowly build a pyramid that way, that's potentially a slower way to do it. And so we get caught in this trap of working on all these different things at the same time, which is very inefficient. We then can't express what we've learned and gained physically in terms of, working out. And so as opposed to spending a solid amount of time hammering nutrition, like, hey, it depends on the person. the next 3 months, the next 6 months, the next 9 or even 18 months is going to be focused specifically on nutrition. When I say nutrition, maybe like body composition. Yes, I do the workouts. We still strength train. We're still going to do conditioning. We're still going to do skills. But that's not my primary focus. My primary focus and energy outside of class is going to be on nutrition, on my sleep, on my recovery, so that when I show up to class, I can just absolutely send it and I can get a lot out of class. But I'm not worried about the class itself. Then maybe the next season of your life, whether that's the next 3 month or 6 or 9 or 12-month chunk, is focused a little bit more on this metabolic conditioning. Not going to dive into my personal story on this specific one, but I ran a 10K this weekend, performed very well for myself. I was extremely happy, even performed well against others. Not that specifically was the goal, but I was just thinking about to last year, if I ever to have run a 10K trail run on this date, like it wouldn't have been anywhere near what it was. And that's like the single most thing that's improved for me over the last, I'm getting probably at 10, 11 months now since I really like locked in and started making a specific change. But nutrition was the base layer. It was the first thing that I fixed. And then conditioning was the next one, like lots of steps, lots of walks. And I started running once a week, longer distances at what I would say embarrassingly slow paces, but slowly building that up to where now I've done essentially nothing for my gymnastics and nothing for I don't say nothing. That's just not fair. But like to improve them, I've just been trying to maintain them. But yet all my strength is still there relative. And all my gymnastics have gotten way better because my bases are wider. So kind of wrap up my last point. Genesis 1 was an example of God laying out that like, finish something to completion and then move to the next thing and then move to the next thing rather than trying to multitask in all these directions. And then again, probably I guess that's my favorite book and my second favorite book, Essentialism by Greg McKeown. But if you have all these energies going in all these different directions, I'm trying to put energy into each level at the same time. It's very hard, as opposed to like, maybe it's smarter for the next 3 to 12 months. Let me put a lot of effort into this bottom layer, then the next layer, bottom layer, and then I can level up there. So cool, guys. That's where I want to end today. Thanks for listening. If you're still here with us, I love the conversation that I had after the last one I posted. I've had easily, 7 to 10 mini conversations, and then 2 or 3 probably deeper ones. But I probably had 7 to 10 mini conversations with folks about that one. And so I love to keep having those in the gym. It's why I want to keep making this. So hey, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Build that base. The next layer is only as big as the layer underneath it. I'll see you guys next time.